I mentioned earlier this week the critical issue of aged care. The Royal Commission 2 years ago into aged care found there had been failures in clinical care and infection control, which failures have resulted in hundreds of deaths. And I made the point that families are defenceless in all of this. They pay handsomely for a place in an aged care facility. And as I said this week, for many, all they have bought is death for their loved ones. A report on staffing commissioned by the Aged Care Royal Commission found 57.6% of residents are in homes with staffing that would rate only 1 or 2 stars, and that existing restrictions in relation to aged care had, quote, tragic, irreparable and lasting effects which must be immediately addressed, unquote. I also mentioned, and it must be repeated, that the entry-level pay for an aged care worker is $21.09 an hour, lower than for a supermarket shelf stacker. Now, this is at one end of the age spectrum, care for the aged. I repeat, the disturbing statistic that while many people would prefer to stay in their home because of the attraction to them of a home care package, the Royal Commission found that more than 44 seniors a day, over 16,000 a year, died waiting for their home care package. Along with cost of living and what I alluded to earlier about energy policy, care has become a dominant word in this election campaign, which takes me to the other end of the age spectrum, childcare. This sector is full of conundrums. In the March budget, the coalition government increased support for families with 2 or more children in childcare. But even then, the cost today is often beyond what families can afford. For example, the rise in inflation since March last year was 8.6%, but the cost of childcare in the same 12 months since March last year is up 14.8%. Government and opposition persist in saying that they'll pay down the debt and pay for increased structural costs like the NDIS and aged care, and they'll pay for that via productivity. Well, childcare becomes a significant economic issue in terms of productivity. You see, if the cost of childcare becomes exorbitant, as I've said many times, one of the parents may well consider whether working is worthwhile. Or if parents decide that there's a day of childcare that they can't afford and they pull their child out of childcare, that may well push a childcare worker out of work. In both instances, productivity is reduced. So early childcare education is now a source of great financial pain under this umbrella of cost of living. If the childcare industry has seen limited wage growth and now for parents there's significant cost of living pressure, the mortgage cost has gone up, families have to grapple with a 15% increase in the cost of childcare, so something's got to give. The focus in this election on our care systems, like aged care and childcare, is a good thing. But I doubt whether the policies and the solutions being proposed are sufficient to meet the challenges confronting the care sector. Recent reports suggest that the coronavirus crisis has left our care systems, and I quote, seriously damaged and in desperate need of renovation. Unquote, that there are, quote, serious workforce sustainability problems, unquote, in the aged care, disability and childcare sectors. Low wages and insecure working conditions are being blamed for the crisis. Whoever forms government will be asked to invest in, quote, sustainable and decent care jobs. But take one look at the NDIS. Its mission is to care for the disabled. The original price of the scheme was about $22 billion a year. The latest federal budget puts the cost at $35.7 billion, but recent forecasts say that could reach $60 billion by 2030. How do we pay for all of this? And that's why the debt burden borders on the irresponsible. We need economic growth, but we need responsible economic management so that the children, the disabled and the elderly of the future can have the care and treatment they deserve in a civilised society. The current economic maths suggest this goal may be unattainable. If so, what comes next?